This podcast is not affiliated with any Grand Lodge, and the ridiculous antics and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own. Should be dismissed immediately.
Good evening, and welcome to episode 51 of Studio 357 Masonic Podcast. 5-1.
I'm keeping track.
Good. At least somebody is. As usual, we'll shout out to our show sponsors, Homeward Handyman Services, ricksmasons.com, the Insurance Center, Corporal Dagan Page Foundation, and of course our Patreon supporters. We couldn't do it without them for sure.
Very thankful.
Yeah. And now the regulatory stuff is out of the way.
Regulatory.
That's stuff the DOT says we have to do. Or not DOT. FCC. Somebody does.
Somebody with a bunch of initials?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll go with that. Okay, so our special guest tonight is Kathleen Foster, and she's the author of a book called Donna Real Court. The lady, I'm going to screw it up. I'm looking at the book. Donna Real Court, Story of the Lady Freemason. Did I mess that up?
Nope, that's perfect.
Okay. Whew, got something right.
The irony of the episode is Joe can't read.
Well, there is a really the book.
Oh,
I can see the book. I can't read it.
We'll go with that.
No, it's not because I can't read. I did read it.
We still love you either way, Joe.
Okay, that's fine.
You guys,
Right, so-
hey, you guys, my internet is the one that's starting to kind of go
Oh, no.
haywire.
You're okay right now.
Yeah, it'll be okay.
Okay, good. All right, good. I have another one. If we need to switch, I can switch to a different Wi-Fi.
Okay. So let's give everybody a quick background and a background of you and what you do for a living.
Yeah, my name is Kathleen Aldworth Foster, and I was a journalist for 25 years. I was a television news producer. I traveled all around the world. Any sort of war or natural or man-made disaster for the past few decades, you can pretty much guarantee that I was there. And during the time as I was working on this book in my very little free time. And now I'm a publicist. So I'm a journalist turned publicist. So I get people on TV, people who have expertise in topics that are making a lot of headlines. Those are usually my clients, and I watch the headlines and see where I can insert their expertise for commentary needed by journalists at just the right time. That's what I do now.
Boy, that keeps you busy.
Yeah.
It is like being in television still. Yeah.
Well, how did the idea of this book come to you?
Well, so in the year 1999, I decided that I needed to be at the pyramids at Giza for Y2K, right? Everyone thought I was crazy. My mom did not want me to go. I asked everyone I knew, hey, you want to go do this with me? And I was 25 years old, and no one wanted to go. No one, God forbid, nobody, can you imagine? No one wanted to go with me. So I decided to go by myself. I took 3 weeks off and I went to Jerusalem. I was at Bethlehem for Christmas 1999. Then I took one of the scariest minibus rides I've ever had across the Sinai to Cairo. And I was at the pyramids of Giza when I met a man on New Year's Eve who was, he was a British man who was studying Egyptian symbols and ties to Freemasonry. And he was the one who noticed my middle name, Aldworth, and said, oh, did you know that the only ever female Freemason was a woman named Elizabeth Aldworth? And this name is a family name. It was my great-grandmother's maiden name. It was given to me at birth from my middle name. And I have always just been very, very attached to this name, found it very special. But I knew very little about her. I've never heard of her before. I knew there was a town in England called Aldworth. And the internet, wasn't what it is today. So I couldn't just Google her and find out everything. So kind of just kept that information in my back pocket for a few years. And then I started on my career that I mentioned was I spent a ton of time in the Middle East. And in 2006, I was covering a war between Hezbollah and Israel, and I was living in an abandoned kibbutz. Everyone had kind of run in this little peninsula of land that juts into Lebanon. I was in an area called Kiryat Shimona. And I had to tell my bosses one day that I had to leave in order to go to Ireland on this long pre-planned genealogy trip with my dad. My grandmother had died, wanted us to see where her parents were from. So I had this one quiet day, and I don't know why. I Googled the Lady Freemason. I Googled the Aldworth family for the first time, and that's when I found out that she was from County Cork. So I always just assumed she was British, where this town of Aldworth is. But no, she was an English colonialist family living in County Cork. So when I flew from Israel to the Shannon airport and met up with my family all coming in from Philadelphia, I said to my dad, hey, remember that Lady Freemason I told you about? Well, yeah, it turns out she's from County Cork. And the man that he had hired to drive us around in a bus that was much too large for the streets of Ireland overheard me and said, yeah, not only is she from here, but her house is still standing. You want to go? And we all piled into that bus, and we went straight from the Shannon airport to Doneraile Court. So that's the name of my book. It is named after her house. Downton Abbey was a really big thing at this time, when I started writing this book. So, but it was there. Behind this chain link fence, there was this derelict house in front of me, and that's when he told me the story of the Lady Freemason for the first time. And here's how the story goes. She was a 17-year-old girl named Elizabeth St. Ledger at the time. Her held these serious meetings in her house every month. And the legend is that she fell asleep in the library, which is the room that was adjacent to the lodge, and which is really what they called the room in the house. I've seen maps, floor plans where it says the lodge. And she, the story is that she actually took some scissors out of her pocket and pulled a brick out of a wall that was under repair. I have a feeling that they were probably bricking up either a door or an archway between the two rooms to allow for more privacy, right? But so at some point in the ceremony, she saw something that she realized, I really shouldn't be seeing this. And she left the room, and that's where she came face to face with the family's butler, who was the Tyler. So with his sword. And it was up to him to decide whether to, let her scurry off to bed or hand her over to her father. And apparently he handed her over to her father. And those guys debated for quite a long time what they should do with her, until finally one man stood up and said, wait, this is crazy. Let's put her through the paces. Let's make her the first ever female Freemason, and I will take care of her for the rest of my life. And what's awesome about this is that guy was Richard Aldworth, and they got married 5 months later. So this whole thing, I should have mentioned, takes place in 1712. So we're talking pre-Grand Lodge era, right? Yeah. So her story in Ireland, 1717, right, was the Grand Lodge of England. 26, I think, is the Grand Lodge of, 1726 actually the anniversary right now of the Provincial Grand Lodge of Munster, which is the jurisdiction for this area of Cork. So so her story is actually seen as proof that Freemasons were operating underground in private homes without warrants, without numbers at this time in history.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So I heard your episode with the refreshment guys, and I kind of heard the story. The first thing that popped in my head about the whole we either the killer or a Mason was I kind of think about would we do that now? And I don't think so. But
wait a minute. We can talk about that later.
No. So what I think is interesting is I think it seems like there's a third option of hey, can you just not say anything? So I think that's an interesting. Obviously, this is 300 years ago.
Exactly.
So it's a whole different arena that we're working with. But no, it's a fascinating story.
Mm-hmm.
I should point out to those that are just listening, you're hearing the voice of the Grand Custodian, Worshipful Brother Eric Benzala, who decided to just drop by the studio, and we thought we'd put him on camera.
Here I am.
Here he is. You wanna handle the question?
Sure. So, knowing kind of like how this book came about, it's like kind of elucidated really, really well. So, like, what is it about then? Like, what is the story itself kind of encompassing?
Well, so what you just said was really what led me on this journey, right? I'm thinking, well, what is it? Why would they want to kill her own father, her own brothers? Like, what were their oaths like at that point, right? Because pre-Grand Lodge, there were 2 degrees. So what did that ceremony really look like? That was probably the hardest thing I encountered in writing this book. But let me back up a little bit. I am a big fan of historical fiction, and every time I go on vacation, I usually pick a historical fiction book to read while I'm on these trips. And so immediately I looked to find something like that on her. And what I found was there was very little written about her. There's a memoir that her family put out in 1811, which is more like a pamphlet. It's been updated quite a few times, but it has the story. It has a version of the story, but I just wanted more. I wanted as much as I could get my hands on, especially since it had this family connection, and I wanted to figure out. I was very into genealogy, and I wanted to figure out what, if we were related, could I be descendant of her? I only recently found out that my Aldworth side of the family was also from Cork and not from England. Well, originally from England, but via Cork to Philadelphia. So there was a possibility, right? And it was through this research into the Lady Freemason that I found out a ton about my own family, and it's a process that's continuing to this day, which we can get into later in the conversation. But so when I found that there was no historical fiction novel for me to read, initially I thought, okay, I'm going to look into writing a nonfiction book because I'm a journalist. That's all I know how to write. I only know how to write nonfiction. But as I started digging and digging, Eric said it's 300 years ago. So we've got a story that may have been embellished for quite a few times over the years, right? And then nothing was written down about that night. We have some newspaper articles. Luckily, some of the people who were there that night told some stories down to their sons, and then they shared it. So there is some stuff about her out there, and I think pretty sure I found everything you can possibly find, but it was just still not enough to do something nonfiction. So I challenged myself the first time. I wrote a historical fiction novel, which means that there's a lot of other characters in the story that are fictionalized. And I actually think I should probably go back and maybe in the epilogue point out who's not real and which storylines are not real. But I'll get to that maybe when I'm done writing this book. So I've got now working on a second book, and I have plans to, I think it's probably going to end up being 4.
Wow.
Really?
Right.
So is it the second and third and potentially 4th book? It's all part of this story then?
Yeah, I'm taking as much as I know about her real life and building again. I'm going to have to take more liberties going forward than I had to with this book because even less is known about her life. We know that she died though in 1775, and we know through my family history that her husband is related to one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence.
Hey,
Wow.
So,
about that.
yeah. So that
Wow.
was actually a family mystery that was passed down to me when I was a kid by my great grandmother, who I'm named after. So Kathleen Aldworth told my mother, who's not her grandchild. My father is her grandchild, but my mother was just so enamored with this old woman. She's the one who named me after her. And one of the things they told my mom when I was little, and my mom passed it on to me, was that Anne Aldworth signed the Declaration of Independence. Well, when you're from Philadelphia, you always think you're related to somebody who signed the Declaration of Independence, right? Like that's just like the badge of honor. But when I was in high school, I went looking for it, and there's nobody with that name on the Declaration. So I asked all of my grandfather's brothers, everyone who was still alive when this is now I'm in my 30s, and I'm researching the Lady Freemason, and this part of it is real. This part of my family history is really part of the Lady Freemason story, and really all of Freemasonry's story. So one night I woke up in the middle of the night, it was about 3 a.m. thinking, she had to have known something. What did she know? And so finally at that point, the internet again caught up with my research, and I and found out that
I think we may want to switch Wi-Fi's.
another Elizabeth Aldworth, not our Elizabeth, but another one, who came from Bristol, England, and her uncle and husband were among the first patent landowners in what's now Maine. So they settled a fishing colony in 1603. And then she and her husband settled there. And 6 generations later begat Elbridge Gerry, who was the governor of Massachusetts, the very unfortunate namesake of gerrymandering, and vice president under Madison, and a Freemason.
Wow.
So in my story, I think I have to, at some point, get Elbridge Gerry and Elizabeth together. She died in 1775, right at the dawning of the American Revolution. So it's not out of the question that she and her husband Richard, who are the only married Freemasons in history, and they were married for 60 years, maybe they were involved somehow in spreading it to the colonies. Fascinating to think about.
The world may never know.
Now I'm wanting to read more of these books.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. Tell us about Doneraile itself. Is it a real place? Can we visit it? Tell us
yes. You absolutely should visit it. So what's wonderful is that house is absolutely not derelict and not behind a chain link fence anymore. It is owned by the state of Ireland, by the Office of Public Works, it's called, and they have done a remarkable job restoring the first 2 floors of this building. So you can actually go and you can tour it. You can see the lodge room. You can see the library. You can go through two stories of the house, and the entire estate is a wildlife park surrounding it. And it's actually one of the top tourist attractions in County Cork.
Wow. That's saying a lot.
My mom's been to Ireland, so I was like, I should ask her. So I just texted her and see if she had actually been there or not.
Well, that's what I find all of these places. I've been in that area, but I wasn't a Mason at the time, so I wouldn't even thought twice about it. Now I want to go back.
Yeah.
So is there, without giving too much away from the book, is there any intriguing points that you want to let everybody know about that'll make them run out and buy this book?
Well, I think for Freemasons, I think that your rituals vary from state to state, right here, and they definitely vary country to country. And for me, I wasn't very familiar with Freemasonry, but one of the things that I got wrong and the Freemasons in Ireland helped me with is where you wear your aprons, how you wear your aprons. Gotta say, you guys look a lot more uncomfortable.
Outside the jacket, please.
Outside the jacket versus. I didn't write that correctly, so they caught that, which is something that I wouldn't know. I think for you guys, I think you might see a couple little things like that. I mentioned earlier that it was really difficult for me to figure out how to write that ritual. Because not knowing really what it would have looked like at that time in history, and then American version versus the Irish version. So in the end, I consolidated the Irish version.
Demonstrate that love never ends through the commitment to support past and present service members, the communities that surround them, and the loved ones of those whom we will never forget. Visit deganpage.org for more information.
Hi, listeners. I'm Brother Samuel.
I'm Brother Gabriel.
And I'm Brother Ryan.
And we're the hosts of the Third Degree Masonic podcast. We hope you're enjoying Studio 357 as much as we are. If you're looking for further knowledge on Masonic topics, then check us out on the same platforms as Studio 357. And remember, craftsmen,
Keep your working tools in order.
And always be on the level.
now let's get back to Studio 357.
When it comes to something as important as insurance, it's imperative that you work with an agency who has an in-depth knowledge of multiple insurance products, companies, and guidelines, not just one. We are completely independent agents, and we work for your best interests. We are Mason-friendly. We have locations in Fremont and Elkhorn. We provide policies for virtually all of your personal and commercial needs, including health and dental. Visit our website at www.theinsurancecenterinc.com. We're available Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
At Homeward Handyman Services, we pride ourselves on being honest and giving every job the attention it deserves. Owned and operated by a master mason with 2 decades of expertise in home repair. We are bonded and insured, and we carry the highest standards when it comes to taking care of your home. Whether you need a faucet changed or a light remodel, we can take care of your home improvement needs. Call Michael at 402-915-0824 today for a free estimate.
Okay.
It's not to say that there aren't Masons in Nebraska that wear the jacket over the apron, but if I get a chance, I'm like, can we put that on the outside, please?
I may or may not have
Why
said
is that? You know, why is that? Why do Americans wear it on top of the jacket?
I don't know. I will tell you why I would prefer it.
Yeah.
It just looks a little bit cleaner, and that's the emblem. It's kind of like hiding the emblem. If you wear a jacket over the top of it, you're hiding the thing that's kind of expressing you being a Mason. It also would
sets us apart.
yeah, it's the thing that sets us apart too. So I think it's
putting a cover over your BMW badge.
yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, it would just be like being a military officer, but you just walk around like this, covering your chest the whole time. You're like, yeah, you don't need to see that.
Well,
It's like, but that's
on purpose.
okay. So, well, that might be.
Right, and your emblem changes, right, as you progress. So that makes a lot of sense.
So I'm not going to ask a question that's on there because it's not on there, but I do have a question. So about this whole situation. So being somebody that writes that has written nonfiction primarily, why decide to do historical fiction? And on top of that, like, did you find it to be a little bit more gratifying than writing something that's kind of, nonfiction tends to be a little bit more black and white? Well,
there were a couple of reasons for this. Number one, I didn't want to piss anybody off. And I figured, right? I figured if it's historical fiction, it's historical fiction. I'm going to try to remain as true to the thread of the story that we know, as far as we know. So, but for the rest of it, what was I going to do? It was very, very hard, and I enlisted help. I enlisted people who knew what they were doing to help me make sure that I was tying up loose ends and the story arc was making sense. And I mean, it was a big challenge. But that was the number one reason, was that I didn't want to piss anybody off. And if I got something wrong, what was I going to do? I'm not a Freemason. So,
Well, I'm going to throw it out there. I read the book, and it was one of the first books that I've read in a long time. Most of the viewers know that I'm a newer Mason. I probably had only read a couple books in the last 10 years, but that was one of the first ones that got me going. And I took it on a road trip, and I read it from we drove 3 hours to a different city, and I'd gotten most of it done before we even got there. Loved every bit of it. So my question would be, are we making this into a movie?
Yes, right. I can tell you that there are talks. Yes, there's been some progress on that front. That's all I can say right now. Things are. Yes,
Right.
just
It
yes.
is a
And
very,
when I was writing it, I had a feeling that this was going to be a movie. I kind of wrote it that way, right? Every chapter kind of feels like a scene change, and I'm so happy to hear how much you enjoyed it, because those are my favorite compliments, when people say I don't read that much, or like there's been a couple of men in Ireland who tell me that they haven't read it all, haven't read a book at all in decades, and they've read this. So that was very important to me.
that's me. I don't delve into books unless it's a repair manual for a car or something. But yeah, once I picked it up, it was hard to put down.
Thank you. I worked really hard on that, and I think this is where my television news writing came in handy. Is I tried to keep the language very plain. I tried not to over explain things. I tried not to over describe things, because people always say the book is better than the movie. Well, because the book is the movie in your head, and I wanted everyone to be able to put that movie in their head themselves. So I'm really glad to hear that. And I learned, I earned a few master's degrees while I was writing this book. I got a creative writing master's degree, and then a publishing master's degree. It's just such a learning experience. It's going to be a lot easier for the second time. But everything, the font, when the pages turned, I thought about all of that.
Well, I've reading books. I usually don't get the tension that I got, and I'm not going to give away any of the story. But there was a part that involved a clock, and I just got so wrapped into that whole scene that I just couldn't put it down.
Ooh, I love hearing that. You want to know about the clock? There's actually a lot. So one of the legends about her, the story that I told you, is the one that I chose to operate from. But there are other legends about her that she hid in the grandfather clock, right? And that's where how she witnessed. Like, actually, this legend actually puts her in the room with the clock, in the room with the guys, and that's just kind of ridiculous to me. But James Joyce is actually one of the people to have perpetuated that story. There is a line about Elizabeth in Ulysses.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. So I put that part about the clock into the book as kind of an homage to a story that other people have believed and perpetuated over all these years, even though it doesn't. I mean, the Freemasons who I met there, one of the first things they said was, "Yeah, that whole grandfather clock thing. No, that's not what happened." Yeah.
That's awesome. I actually just heard about you today. So I did my research before I came here, because I wasn't just going to sit here and not know what we were going to be getting into. But I do read. I read every morning for an hour. That's non-negotiable for anybody. So I get up. No, if I have to get up and start doing something at 5, I will get up at 4. To always make sure I have that hour to read. And I actually transitioned a couple of years ago to reading primarily fiction. I used to read nonfiction all the time, because I was like, oh, I got to learn. And I found it didn't actually make my life any better. It actually kind of made it a little worse when you find out too much information. But so I also don't, and this is the weird thing as a Mason, I don't read Masonic books either, but just because to me, it was like, I don't want to read somebody else's experience. I would prefer either to talk about it or to have it myself and then kind of go through that discourse. But having a novel, however, I feel like can convey some of the parts of Masonry, and then just whether it's the mysteries or just the way that it feels or anything like that, a little bit better than just reading kind of, like I said before, like a black and white piece of text of like, this is what it is and this is what it's supposed to do. It's like, I don't want to be told that. I am close to Gen X. I don't like being told what to do. So I got really excited, and I immediately was like, okay, I got to go find this book, and I got to read this now, because I love reading novels, and it's one of my favorite things to do. So this is exciting. It's nice to be able to talk to you about this.
Yeah, sounds like you would like historical fiction.
Yes, absolutely.
It satisfies both. That's how it's always been for me.
Absolutely.
I have to completely stop reading fiction when I'm writing.
Yeah.
I find that I question myself. I doubt my own abilities, and I am afraid that I would start emulating someone else's style that I think is better than mine. And so that's why I have to completely stop, and it helps me stay to my own voice.
Oh, that's interesting.
I can second that. As a drummer, when over the last few years, I listen primarily to ambient music. That sounds really strange for a drummer, but I found that I was emulating the things that I heard too much when I was writing my own music. And so I just kind of gravitated toward, like, I like these 3 bands and I will listen to them all the time, but everything else is just going to be, clear headspace.
100%.
Yep.
Completely agree with that.
We can relate to that.
The dog is making an appearance.
Are you in the next question?
You going to ask Shelley?
Hmm?
No.
Nope.
She doesn't speak much.
She's shy.
No.
So where can we find the book?
It's on Amazon. But any library can get it for you, and any bookstore can get it for you. It's available around the world, and it has a life of its own. Ever since I released this book, I've heard from people, India, Australia, New Zealand. It's just making its way. It has a life of its own. And once things start slowing down, and I think, okay, maybe I need to focus a little bit more on my job, the lady Freemason's like, oh, no, you don't. Here comes somebody else. You keep my story going.
So podcasters from Nebraska.
Yes. So who do you find being your main audience? Who are the people that tell you that they read it? Is it mainly Freemasons, or is it spread out?
Yes, it is mainly Freemasons and women who like historical fiction, who book clubs. I'm really busy with women's book clubs, but I would say number one is absolutely Freemasons, which was a big surprise to me, because I didn't know how it was going to be received, and it's been received so well all around the world.
It's good to hear.
It is. So we've already touched on our next question, which was, are you thinking of writing a sequel? So it sounds like there's going to be a couple.
Yes. So actually 1 week from today, August 22nd, I am going on a journey. I'm going to ancient Britain, really, is where I'm going. And I am taking the trip that I am going to send Elizabeth on in the second book.
Oh, yeah.
So she is going to end up in London, 1717, at the taverns, at the creation of the Grand Lodge. She is going to face some more misogyny. She's already going to face it. I don't think the guys, they initiated her back in Donerail. Did they really expect her to come back? Keep coming back? And one every month? I don't think so. So we're gonna explore that. We're gonna explore motherhood. There's going to be a lot of talk about beehives and honey and the Knights Templar, of which I just became a member.
Nice.
So
all right.
Interesting kind of search. She's going to go on a quest to tie Freemasonry to antiquity. So then the third book, we're looking at Jerusalem and Egypt. And then by the fourth book.
Oh. Bonding time. We lost you at the fourth book.
We heard fourth book and then it cut out.
Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
Probably Boston. Probably Boston and Philadelphia, but I'm going to send her to the colonies.
Yeah, you got to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh. So do you have any other books that you want to let anybody know about?
No, the lady Freemason owns me right now.
Do you have a preference where people get your book from? Like, do you have a website yourself that people can get it from, or does it matter?
I do. Yeah. Donerailcourt.com, also ladyfreemason.com goes there. You can, you can buy one there or contact me, but really Amazon is the best. And I know that independent bookstore owners don't love that, but Amazon actually treats the author like a small business person, and I make the most money when you buy it through Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Oh, did not know that.
I
mean, the ones I have I keep them in the unused shower that I have in my first floor bathroom. Those probably would be the most. That's how you'll get it signed, is if you contact me directly if you want.
So there you go. If you want a signed copy, go to the website and contact her directly.
Yeah.
DonerailCourt.com.
Yep. Or ladyfreemason.com. Both of
That's
those.
really smart.
And then don't forget there's a cipher embedded in the book that you can.
There is, yeah.
Yeah. People
I
think
can do a puzzle.
Somebody last night sent me an email through the website. They just deciphered it. People seem to really like that.
Nice. That's kind of cool.
It is.
Yeah.
All right, so this was fun to do again. Everybody doesn't know is we've done this before, but we had some major audio issues.
Well, and here's the thing: it was probably the best episode we'd ever done. Next year they're going to allow people to start actually getting Emmys for podcasts. I think we would have gotten the Emmy on that particular one.
Oh, for sure.
But we the audio was bad, so we're just going to have to redo it again.
And the show went to hell from there.
I thought this one was pretty great. I actually said a lot in this podcast that I haven't said before.
Yeah, this one is pretty great.
It was good.
No, it was great to hear from you again. And again, I can't say enough about how much I did enjoy the book. That's an honest review.
Absolutely.
Again, for what it's worth, I haven't read a whole lot in the last few years, but it was one that I thoroughly enjoyed.
Well, that's what it should be. It shouldn't be a slog, right? You should enjoy it.
Can I ask one more question before you hit stop recording?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I have like 15 questions, but I'll ask like one or two.
Go for it.
No. What do you think? What was probably the most challenging aspect of like writing the book, or maybe it was the research part of it, but like, what was the most challenging part for you?
Definitely not the research. That's the best part. I could have been researching forever and never.
Yeah.
Right. Stopping researching was the hardest part. Getting to a point where, right, because it's just fascinating. But for me, it was making stuff up. I've never been in a position to make stuff up, and then also I wove in a mystery. So think about writing a mystery that is actually, you have to figure it out yourself. So that was very, very hard, and that's when I brought in professionals. I brought in 2 developmental editors, one from New York and one from London, because I knew that my audience was going to be on both sides, and took both of their notes, combined them together, and then got another person to help me actually implement it. I mean, I really, when I tell you, like, I had my first draft and it was fine, but I would never, I'm so glad it didn't publish it looking like that. Any self-publishing has come a long way and the stigma in it is gone, but the stigma is deserved when people don't realize that they don't know everything. Get the people who are going to make it better. I also had the most incredible book cover designer, a Freemason from Ireland, covered. Oh. He's the one who did the cover, and he's the one who said, "Hey, why don't we put a cipher in this?" That was his idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. A genius idea.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. David Schreiers.
Tough question. Have you run into any resistance with the book?
No. Good. There was there's the odd guy here and there who's just doesn't want to hear about female Freemasons, doesn't want to have that discussion at all. But yeah, I thought I was going to run into a lot, and I haven't.
Good.
Not at all.
How did you navigate? So being somebody that's written mostly nonfiction, and your work before was obviously nonfiction. So how did you navigate like how to fictionalize certain things? Like what went through your mind of like, okay, this is too accurate. I need to kind of like adjust some things. Like how did you navigate that?
Oh, I had a few situations like that. So what I would do is David Butler, who you guys all met before, he set up his lodge in Ireland, and we would read certain chapters to them just to kind of get their feedback on it. And there were a couple of things where they said, you know what, that's just a touch too close. And I had no problem changing it. And then when I changed it, I realized, oh wait, it's actually even better. The way we've changed it is actually better. So I was open to that. Like I said, I don't want to piss anybody off.
Sure.
I think this is just a good way of breathing life into Elizabeth, breathing life into the Lady Freemason, and in a way that hasn't ever been done before.
Absolutely. I think about like when you went and did a reading, get some feedback, you go and kind of adjust it, and okay, yeah, sure, it becomes a little bit more fictionalized, but the way that it conveys the message, I would assume, becomes a little bit stronger at that point, because it's eliciting a certain feeling from you. It's one of my favorite movies, Big Fish. I don't know if anybody's ever seen it. Big Fish now.
Long time ago, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I suppose anymore these days.
I
Yeah,
know. I remember that movie.
yeah, it had Ewan McGregor, but he was basically like he would tell these just absolutely fantastical tales about the people that he met in his life, and his son was so frustrated because he's like, "Well, I want to know the accuracy of this because it seems so ridiculous." And then he found out that it was like, yeah, these people existed, but his father did kind of embellish basically, but it was what his father was really doing that was his way of describing what it felt like. And so that's why I was curious about like navigating the nonfiction to fiction aspect of it, because I think sometimes you can more accurately, as ironic as that is, tell a story by fictionalizing it versus necessarily just like point for point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean,
It's deep, bro.
Sorry, I read a lot.
Yeah, it's great. You read a lot of fiction, so I'm glad that you like what you've read so far, considering that it's not my number one skill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think it might be.
No, it's a lot of fun, but the way I wrote it was not linear at all. I would wake up in the middle of the night and think, oh, I got to write this down. And I would write scene by scene by scene. So it was I was a mess. I mean, I wouldn't be able to really show anybody my notes and everything because it was a jumbled mess. But then I eventually got a program and put the chapters in, and then I could move the chapters around as everything evolved. But it was not I sat down and wrote the story. It was here and here and here and here and here, and then putting them in the right place and tying them together.
Interesting.
But it's very interesting.
Yeah, I like to find out how people do. I mean, a lot of times that's how they do movies.
Yeah,
it's not in chronological order. So yeah, that's interesting. I like that.
So having not ever written a book, how does that work as far as in your mind? Did you have a timeline on how long you thought it would take? Did you meet that timeline? And now coming back for a second and third book, how does that feel? Is it kind of the same feel, or think you've got, you've learned enough that it's going to be quicker?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So on the first point, oh hell no, I did not meet any deadlines. It took me 15 years to get all of this done. Fortunately, on the very first question you asked was, I was lucky that I had a storyline I knew what the beginning was and I knew what the end was. So I had to decide to make it was about the course of a month, right? So we started to kind of give the world and what they expected every full moon these guys were going to arrive. So I only had a month to deal with that story. I think I'm going to try to stick to that kind of timeline, a month, for the second book, but everything is going to be easier for me on the second book. I already have this journey that I'm physically taking a journey that she is going to take in England. So I know how this book is going to start and I know how it's going to end. But there's a lot of stuff in the middle that I plan to learn firsthand on this trip. And then I'm going to weave it all together. So it's going to be actually a very different process.
Yeah.
I very much look forward to reading about that journey.
No doubt.
It'll be interesting.
And then watching the movie and saying, nope, the book was better.
I've only had one experience where it was a show was better than the book. It was Station 11. I don't know if you guys ever saw the show or read the book. The book was a bummer. It was not good. I'm sorry. Funny. The show was amazing though, but
yeah. Well, stay tuned on all of that.
Well, keep us updated. I'll be on the pre-order list, I'm sure. All right. Well, I think we about wrapped it up.
Yeah, and I'll preemptively apologize to Jim. I accidentally muted the wrong mic while you were asking your question because I didn't want when I was taking a drink of water. So
no.
Sorry.
I heard it.
Okay, good.
I'm loud enough that I made it through.
And it was a long question too, but I heard it.
Okay, good.
Yeah. All right.
All good.
All right.
Good in the hood.
Well, thank you so much for having me again, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you absolutely for taking time out on a Friday night to record with us.
Again.
I know it's getting late in New Jersey, so with that, we will sign off.
All right.
Thank you all for watching and listening, and we'll see you on the next one.